Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. This is Todd Durkin, and this is the last week of 2020. Can I get an amen on that? Anybody, can I get an amen? Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope you all had a very, very wonderful Merry Christmas and holiday thus far. I know we got New Year's coming up the end of this week. I know everyone is as excited as I am for 2021 to be here. So I figured before 2021 actually came upon us here on Friday that I would drop my top 20 lessons of 2020. Now, my friends, I don't know about you, but I'm as ready as I've ever been for a new year. This has been one heck of a year. It has been hard. It's been challenging. There's been some good, but there's been a lot of bad and even some ugly as well. And today I want to share my top 20 lessons. And when I was reflecting on this, a lot of this reflection took place when I was on the Lazy Boy. I had knee replacement surgery, partial knee replacement on December 5th. And in the 2.5 weeks or so since that time, I spent a lot of time on the Lazy Boy, rehabbing and healing. And let me tell you what, I am doing so much better. I'm fired up for 2021. And that's actually one of my lessons I'll share later on. But I'm going to keep it moving because there are 20 lessons. It might be a two-parter episode, but I understand that everyone's busy right now. But I do hope that you have the opportunity this week, the last week of 2020, to actually slow down and stop and reflect upon 2020, because I know we're ready to flip the page. I know we want a new year, but I think there were some valuable lessons for each and every one of us that will allow us to really be grateful and allow us to even more look forward to 2021. So with that being said, realize this, I could have had, no joke, 100 lessons, and there'll probably be some lessons within lessons here, but I want to make sure that today that you have the opportunity to at least hear 20 and reflect on your 20 as well. So without further ado, my top 20 lessons in no particular order, by the way. Number one, first lesson that I wrote down when I was like, okay, here are my lessons of 2020. Faith is the only thing that you can count on to trump fear. Faith over fear all day long. The question I keep asking myself and have asked myself for the last 9 months is, what does God want me to do in this situation? How can I best handle this situation? How can I better serve? How could I better lead? And how could I create even more impact in this very dark, challenging time? Now, when I share that, one of the things I thought about, and you can all probably relate to this, is, especially back in like May and June and July, when I think times were some of the darkest times because of the racial divide, the social injustices, so much just was going on in the world. It was that question like, do I speak? Do I not speak? If I don't speak, am I the problem? If I do speak, am I the problem? And that wrestling in the head, a lot for me came down to my own faith walk of, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to share? How could I just share my most authentic self and be a person of love? And I kept asking myself this question. This is me. Like, if Jesus were here in this time, what would he do? How would he be handling this situation? After the death of George Floyd, obviously an extremely heinous crime on that. It was the darkest of times in that. And then with COVID going on top of that, and so many different things happening in the world, I think for me, one of the lessons I learned is the one thing you can always lean into is your faith. And one of the things I hate seeing now, even with kids not being in school and most churches not being open, or at least live, obviously, I realize this is all part of, again, faith over fear. Fear is and has crippled our country and our world in ways way more than I wished to see it. But perhaps this is God's way of slowing us all down to realize that this is going to be a real big recalibration and reshift. And I realized that faith doesn't have to be a formal thing. It doesn't have to be formal. I think sometimes you think faith is religion, and religion is you go to church and you show up for an hour, and it's very formal. It's like, it's like a wedding. You gotta have this formal practice. I believe faith is actually somewhat informal. I believe faith is a relationship. It's a relationship. For me, as a man of faith, it's a relationship with God and talking to God, not just in your quote morning routine or your evening routine, which all are very important. But like faith is really about while you're out for a walk, you're talking to God. When you're in your car, you're talking to God. When you're in the middle of a workout, you're like, come on, God, help me with this, baby. Let's go. So it's somewhat of an informal thing that sometimes we think we have to have this sanctuary and it has to be very formal. While it can be that, and there's times when that's great to carve out that time, I always said that it's not about religion, it's about a relationship. It's not about a religion. It's about a relationship, and it's your relationship with Jesus or whatever your faith is. It's about laughing. It's about crying. It's about smiling. It's about that talking. So bottom line is this: number one, faith over fear, faith over fear. We've got to have faith that we will overcome the fear and the darkness that often is and was in 2020. Number two, and it's closely related. Some of these are interrelated, and they're going to be all over the board. But number two is this. I realized, and a lesson I learned in 2020, and although I'd heard this for many, many moons, I realized that there is more hate in this world than I ever thought. More hate. Now, why do I share this as a lesson? Because the lesson is this. By experiencing hate firsthand, I realized that my purpose in life became deeper. My desire to serve, my desire to create impact, my desire to seek and change lives really, really became the deepest it's ever been. And as of right now, end of 2020, I am more fired up going into 2021 about some of the changes that will happen in 2021 that will allow me to walk more in faith. Interesting enough, on June 2nd, 2020, my book came out, Get Your Mind Right. And guys, I got to tell you, I was so fired up for so long. And when I found out it was supposed to be January 1st, 2020, I was so excited. I wanted it, but then they delayed it and delayed it. Next thing you know, the pandemic hits and they delayed it to June. And June 2nd, 2020, that was Blackout Friday. Blackout Tuesday on June 2nd, same day the book came out. When you talk about like having, like a come to Jesus moment of like, man, like Get Your Mind Right book comes out on a day when this world and this country was in such divide, I had to ask myself this question of like, is this perfect timing? Is this divine timing on this? Because here's the bottom line: is a book that took almost 3 years to write. Was it a mistake that it came out on June 2nd? I don't think so. But I realized this: the hate that I experienced and that so many people experience is real. And there's some really deep-seated emotions for people all over the board. And I asked myself this question and did a lot in June and July. And to this day, how could I be a better man? How could I better serve humanity? What can I do to better serve all my brothers and sisters on that? And I think that's a question that everyone's asked, right? What should I do? What could I do? Bottom line is this: you got to be not only in faith from number one, but you ask yourself your purpose. What's your purpose in life, and how do I best do that? Because the bottom line is, as a lighthouse, as someone who desires to spread more light into this world in 2021, I'm doubling down on my purpose. I'm asking God, how could I serve even better? But I realized sometimes you got to experience the darkness before you could experience that light. And by experiencing darkness and death threats and so much hate, and not just experiencing it personally, but also seeing it and feeling it and experiencing like everyone else who's listening to this, because every person in this world felt that, experienced it, and has been part of it in some way. How could I be the solution and not the problem? How can I be the solution and not the problem? Number three, on a new realm here, is I got to stay in create mode. A lesson I learned is this: One of the things going all the way back to April 2020 is, man, what can I do to better serve people? How can I help people? In April, early April, I came out with this program called Get Yoked. Get Yoked, if you remember, some of you probably have done that. Thousands of people did that. It was a program that I created with my children, Luke, Brady, and McKenna. And it was a body weight program because gyms were shut down and people didn't have any equipment. So we created this body weight program. It's a month-long program designed to help people be their absolute best. And it was physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. We had mindset and audios. But I realized for the last 9-10 months, I need to be in create mode. And most humans need to be in create mode. When do you do your best work? I don't like staying in maintain mode. There's nothing good about staying and just maintaining with what you have. Growth is the key to success. And it doesn't mean you have to just go create products. You could be constantly growing by reading books, by listening to podcasts like this. I believe that humans are designed to move and improve, to move and improve. So what are you doing to move every day? And what are you doing to improve every day? How do you stay in create mode? I know right now, literally at the end of 2020, as I record this, with New Year's coming up this week, this Friday, there's going to be some major creation in 2021. And I hope you get on the parade of like, ask yourself this question now: what can I do in 2021 to create something that's really special? The blank canvas that exists right now, what can I do that's going to make a major impact in my life, in the lives of the people around me, in my community, in my zip code, in my city, in my state, and even my country or in this world? What can I create? That's number 3. Number 4, best habits can change. Best habits can change, but you must identify them, lock them in, and fight like mad to live by them. Let me ask you a question. Has anyone struggled with their habits this year in 2020? Anyone? Or am I the only one? Right? Like, you're probably laughing right now, or at least smiling or chuckling. Like, yeah, I had a couple tough weeks or a couple tough months, or perhaps the last 9 months have been tough, and you got to get back off the horse or get back on the horse and cut out some habits. In doing what I call my annual roadmap and strategic plan, one of the questions deals with habits of like, what are your current best habits and what habits do you need to eliminate? I know a lot of people who I coach and work with have developed bad habits that have crept into their lifestyle. I call it creep. And I talked about creep in an earlier podcast episode this year. But I believe that when you look at your best habits, what are your best habits right now? What does your morning routine look like? What does your evening routine look like? What are you doing on a regular basis? Because, like, for me, way back in April, we went into basically shutdown mode back March 18th. It was like, okay, instead of having my 2 beer a month my 2 beer a month rule of no more than 2 beers a month, I was like, I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm going to clean up my nutrition. I'm going to work out every single day. I'm going to use my morning time for output to the world. And my afternoon was when I'll get input. I'll check emails and social media and all that stuff in the afternoons. Those were some habits that I tweaked and changed that I did because I had to really make sure that I stayed in a mode that was going to allow me to not only survive, but also thrive and serve as well. But let me tell you what, you and I both know it's not easy. I think the biggest challenge I had in 2020 habit-wise was sleep. I had a tough time turning it off. I had a tough time turning my mind off. I was in constant save lives, change lives, create impact. Save lives, change lives, create impact. I mean, that was my mantra. It still is my mantra. And when I finally slowed down December 5th for my surgery of my knee, I got hit like a ton of bricks, because sometimes when you finally slow down, everything catches up from the sprint that you've been on. So it's like, sometimes when you're purpose driven, you've got to make sure that you're interjecting some slowdown aspects into your life as well. But what are your best habits? For me, the sleep thing was a habit. I had to really tweak my nighttime routine. And I shared that as well in a previous episode. And I shared authentically what I was trying to do to dial in my 3-2-1 routine in the evening time, so that 3 hours before going to sleep, I would not eat. 2 hours, I was shutting down all work and not doing work because I created a bad habit of working up until the time it was bedtime. And the last hour, right now, it comes down to extreme personal care, getting off the phones, no screen time, stretching and getting the body taken care of, reading books, which that would get my mind off business and the world and all of that. Not watching the news. My goodness gracious, talk about habits. One of the worst habits people can do is watch the news over and over and over again. I'm not telling you to not watch the news or read the paper, but you got to really guard against that, because there's not a lot of good news in the paper or on TV. And to watch it over and over again, or to watch it while you're sleeping and you're subconsciously hearing it, NG, not good. So dial in your best habits. And for me, one of my top lessons is, best habits can change, but you got to identify them, lock them in. You got to fight like mad to work out, to eat right, and to get your mind right as well. Number 5, fifth lesson. If there's ever a time, the time is now. If not me, who? And if not now, when? So ask yourself that question. Why not me? Why not now? So when you ask yourself that question is, what changes do you need to make? What change do you need to make in your life, in your health, your fitness, your relationships? Have your relationships improved, or have they gotten worse? The fact that you've been confined to a home in 2020 way more than normal, has that been a good thing or a bad thing? For many people, it's been a bad thing, because relationships got exposed. And when habits aren't good and relationships got exposed, you look at even now, some of the statistics of, domestic violence is up, on divorce is up, like people are at each other's throats. So much so, like, hey, how do you change that? What pivots do you need to make happen in your own life? The question I always ask myself if I'm unhappy in a relationship, any relationship, at work, is, what can I do different to change the relationship? Right? When you look at your relationship, what relationships are you in, and what can I do to change the relationship? See, it's really easy to point fingers at your spouse or your kids or your employees or your employer, and be like, man, she doesn't do this or he doesn't do that. And you get in this self-talk, negative self-talk about other people. And I challenge myself, and the reason I share this, I challenge myself is, what can I do as a father to better serve my kids? What can I do as a father to have a different language to make sure my kids are hearing me see and do and speak the right things? As a husband, how can I better serve my wife? What can I do to better serve her versus, man, she doesn't do this, she'll do that. I mean, I'm blessed to have a great wife, but there's always ways that I could be better as a husband to do that. And right. Husbands and dads out there, we can always do better. Moms, wives, we can always do better, and it's a two-way street on that. As a business owner, how can I be better as a leader? And let me tell you what, leadership has been tremendously challenging in 2020. It's another lesson here I share. But when you look at that, if there is ever a time, the time is now. If not me, who? And if not now, when? My whole suggestion is, do it now. And that's one of the reasons why, by the way, why I did surgery in December here, early, a few weeks ago, was because I was like, if not now, when am I going to do it? Am I going to wait until things turn around, and in March and April, things finally get, turn a corner? I see the light at the end of the rainbow. Okay, let me get surgery now. No, do it now. Like, if something's bothering you, you got to take care of it. Do it now. Why wait to get your health right? Oh, some gyms aren't open yet. So what? Find a way to get it done. Hire a trainer virtually. Get a nutrition coach. Find an accountability. Get a life coach. Whatever it needs to happen, do it now. Seek counseling if you need it now. If you're feeling empty, depressed, down, get some help now. Don't wait. For my knee, I wasn't going to wait another month or two if I could help it. I wanted to go through that pain now so that I could come out the other side feeling really, really good. And I'm excited now at the end of 2020, finally, to be saying, you know what? By January 1, by this Friday, I'm going to be probably off my crutches by then, or darn near close. And I'm going to January 2021 feeling like a new man. And that's a great feeling. So take care of what you have to now and don't delay it. Number 6, You got to create your own opportunities. You got to create your own opportunities. When I was reflecting on 2020 and I was thinking about opportunities, it's really easy to sit back and wait and watch and just kind of react to the world and watch the news and feel like garbage. Or you could say, you know what are the biggest problems in the world right now? What are the biggest problems in people's lives right now? And how can I be a solution to those problems? And I talked about the Get Yoked program. That was something that came from a problem. People couldn't work out at gyms. People didn't have equipment. All right, let me create something, and I'm going to create something simple, fun, and effective. And that was good. I think the greatest example that I can give you personally in creating opportunities, my son Luke, and God bless all the seniors this year. My gosh, at least here in California, we have not had, I'll say, real school. We've been in virtual school the entire year, well, from March on, and there's been no sports pretty much from April on in all sports. And this season, the football season was canceled this past fall. We don't know if there'll be a season come this spring, or it's going to delay till the end of spring. But one thing I give my son Luke credit for is I had a talk with him in March. I said, "Listen, I don't know if this is going to go on for a month, 3 months, or for longer, but you're going to have to create an opportunity for yourself with recruiting because Luke had the desire to play college football, so he took it upon himself to begin or deepen the process, knowing that hey, I got to expedite this because if there's no summer camps, I can't perform." And lo and behold, he did that, and he used Twitter because a lot of the recruiting world in the football world anyway is done on Twitter and developing relationships with college coaches. And every single day he was talking or speaking with coaches either on the phone or on Twitter. And he was reaching out for several hours a day. Yes, he had virtual school, but there was no longer, wasn't going to sports or anything like that. He'd work out every day because our kids were working out every day. But he created an opportunity where he eventually had over a dozen offers to go to college using football and sports as a way to get through school. And eventually, if you've been a follower listener, you know that he eventually decided upon going to Davidson University this fall of 21. But it was his initiative of saying, you know what, I'm going to take a really, really tough time, a time when it's not really good, and create an opportunity. And while he probably doesn't look at it like that, I believe that Luke in 4 or 5 or even 10 years will look back and say, I'm glad that I took that initiative, because it's not easy when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, having delayed gratification because you want a football season or you want a sports season or you want success now. I share that because I asked you this question. Where are there opportunities in your life, and what can you create? What can you create to create your own opportunities? I believe it's up to you. It's a choice. I mean, maybe you need to learn a new skill. Maybe you want to develop a new hobby. Maybe you want to adapt some things that you're doing at work, but you got to create your own opportunities. And that comes down to you and having the uber discipline to do what needs to be done, to get done what needs to get done. Right. So number 7, again, this is in order. I just put them down. There's no specific order per se, but number 7 is this. I love this one. Slow down and simplify life. Slow down and simplify life. 2020, it seemed like the world came to a screeching halt, right? Haven't there been a lot of blessings in the simplification of life? I do think sometimes that this is and was God's way of slowing down. When you reflect upon 2020, have you ever thought to yourself, could I have kept going like I was going into perpetuity? Like, could I have just kept going like this forever? I think the answer is, well, yes, but there'd be some consequences. My hope as we get back to quote normal in 2021, because we will get back to a quote pace that will allow us to resume, is that we adapt a lifestyle and adopt, not just adapt, but we adopt the lifestyle that best suits our desires and needs that we want, but that we can keep it simple because there's a lot of beauty in simplification. And we were forced, literally forced to simplify life. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, some of the things that we had to do. So I just encourage, and a lesson I learned is, man, slowing down. And it was uncomfortable slowing down. Even this last month and slowing down, there's been some real beauty in slowing down and enjoying these holidays and healing. The healing process is a beautiful thing. Number 8, working out and training has never been more important ever. I mean, in the last 9 months, training has been more about survival and getting the mind right. Right. I mean, here I've got a home gym in my gym I created a few years ago. But I think back to the I don't even know if it's dozens or hundreds of virtual and live workouts I did in the last 9 months alone. The backyard, the living room, the home garage, the driveway, and Fitness Quest 10, by the way, as well. But working out and training has been about getting the mind right. I mean, literally every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, it was going out for a walk. It was going out and getting some extra upper body in, or lower body, before my lower body started breaking down in July and August. But like, the lesson that was reinforced this year is that, man, sometimes aesthetics are cool to train for because we want, a flatter stomach, or we want our legs to look a certain way, or upper body and arms to look a certain way. But man, that's all great and fine and dandy, but nothing's like the plumbing on the inside. When I talk about the plumbing on the inside, I'm talking about the heart, the lungs, and the head. The heart, the lungs, and the head. How do we get the mind right every single day? People, hey, TD, is your mind always right? No, it's not always right. Why do you think I put out so much content? Like, get your mind right, get your mind right. It's because many times I'm talking to myself of like, hey, you got to battle like hell to make sure your mind is right. And how do you do that? You got to train. You got to have the discipline to train every single day, or most days of the week. You got to fight like mad to not over consume sugar, or to have bad habits when it comes to eating. What can you do to double down on your training, your nutrition, your supplementation, your recovery, so that you can feel a certain way, so you can have the clarity of your mind to think and act and be a certain way? So to me, training has never been more important. Even when I was competing as an athlete in my teens and 20s, has it never been more important than now? Because it's life. There have been so many people who've had their health taken away from them. So, man, keep training. And that's a huge lesson that I've learned. Number 9, people need community, socialization, touch, smiles, laughter, and working out more than ever before. I realized this at Fitness Quest 10. And man, what an up and down year it's been at Fitness Quest 10. I've never been driven by, quote, numbers meaning like finances. It's always been purpose driven from the time I started Fitness Quest 10 in January of 2000. It's about impacting lives. But what an up and down year. Crazy, tumultuous year of you're open, you're closed. You can be open, but you're outside. Up, we're shut back down. And if either you're in the training community or you're part of a studio or gym, wherever you live around the world, you can understand. But what I've realized is this: people thrive on community. People thrive on seeing their pack, their people. And nothing has brought me greater joy in 2020 than when I'm teaching a class or training again live. It was reinforced of how much I love coaching people live. There's nothing like live. And when I say touch, even with a mask on, it's amazing how you can really tell someone's soul through their eyes. It's been said that the eyes are the windows to the soul. But even with a mask on, if someone's smiling, you can see the smile through a mask. The eyes show pain. The eyes show darkness. And so many times, even in our own community, Fitness Quest 10, and every community out there who's listening in, there's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of losses, and we've suffered quite a few losses at Fitness Quest 10. in the world. I know communities worldwide have, both COVID related and non-COVID related as well. But I realize this: community plays a really important role in people's lives, and we all need to be part of an association or an organization or a community that truly cares and loves one another. And I've never been more grateful for my Fitness Quest 10 community, my community right here listening in. I call y'all my fire breathing dragons, my mind right maniacs. I am so grateful for you, because our community, our socialization, the interaction, the DMs, these things are oxygen to my soul. And just like you and you're part of your community, they're oxygen to your soul. They give you life every day. And every day, I just need a little bit of life. I need that one conversation every day, which brings me to number 10. Sometimes in the darkest days or moments, some one person does something for you that gives you hope, that gives you motivation or inspiration or belief. So think about that. Sometimes when you just feel like, man, I don't know if there's hope. I don't know if it's going to turn the corner. And then all of a sudden you have a conversation with someone that gives you love, and they like, man, thank you so much for Fitness Quest 10. I love this place. It's keeping me alive. Or I get a DM from someone that says, I really needed to hear that message today on going deep inside your soul and remembering who you are and putting the freaking between your name. Like, someone will always tell you something that you need to hear when you least expect it. At Fitness Quest 10, my teammates, I saw people going way above and beyond the call of duty. And let me tell you what, I saw the people who were in the trenches, and I saw who wasn't in the trenches. Sometimes the darkest of times reveals the most about one's character. You see the good, you see the bad. In my clients and members, so many people stuck by us. And for that, I'm tremendously grateful. And again, for all of you, the random emails and DMs and social media posts, you talk about fire breathing dragons. There were times throughout this past year when I've been like, man, it was hard for me to get up. Yeah, sometimes there was like days I was like, I got to get up. I got to fight like mad to just get out there and move and feel some fresh air and get out in nature, because nature's healing to the soul as well and help get your mind right. And I get an email that says, hey, TD, man, thank you so much. I need to hear that. And all of a sudden I'm like, boop, boop. I'm like, all right, I need to hear that. Let's get back to it. And then, even in November, I had Impact Week. My foundation, the Durkin Impact Foundation. Guys, we raised over $15,000 in 1 week. Because of people like you listening in right now. And that to me brought such tremendous gratitude, because when you think about this, in some of the darkest of times, people are the most giving. And I saw that. And I said, hey, we're going to double down on the impact that we give, because we actually scholarship kids and families in need. And there's an application process. It's going to be coming up here in early 2021. And so if you're a student nationwide in the U.S. who plans to go to college and needs aid, or if you know of a family who is in dire straits, there's an application process. And guys, we have raised money, and so much good has been coming out of this. And I can't wait to give those scholarships, and man, it's going to be awesome, to the effect of, hey, just yesterday, we awarded scholarships at Fitness Quest 10. This is our internal scholarships that our clients, we've got 3 different scholarships we give, between the Dickinson Scholarship, the Aurora Scholarship, and Carrie Mensure and Diane Halfman award a scholarship as well. $3,000 in scholarships to our Fitness Quest 10 teammates who are doing great as well. So when it comes down to our 10th lesson there, so many great things. But when you think about that, sometimes in the darkest moments, people give you hope, motivation, and inspiration like you can never, ever imagine. Folks, I hope you're enjoying this show. What I want to do right now is I'm going to take a little break. I know y'all are busy. It's a holiday week. Christmas just happened. It's New Year's coming up. I'm going to split this right now, end today's episode, and bring you part 2 of this episode on Thursday. But in the meantime, what I want you to do is take the top lessons I've already shared. Can you share them, please? Take one or two of the lessons that either I shared or one of your one or two top lessons that you've experienced in 2020 and share it on your social media and tag me. Tag me at Todd Durkin. I want to know what's one of your top one or two lessons that you've experienced in 2020. Share that on your social media. And then this coming Thursday, I'll share the rest of my top 20 lessons of 2020. So by Thursday afternoon, going into 2021 on Friday, January 1st, that you'll have my top 20 lessons of 2020, and you'll be well prepared and equipped to go into 2021 ready to rock and roll. Thanks so much, and I can't wait to see your top lessons as well. Tune in on Thursday for the rest of my top 20 lessons.